And then verse 3 on is not actually the creation of the world, they say, but the restoration of what God had originally created. And so according to this view, you've got at least animals dying before Genesis chapter 3. And in some versions of this view, you have actually a race of men, a pre-Adamic race of man who lived and were destroyed. Okay. You think of all this and you go, where in the world is all that in my Bible? I mean, it's in the white spaces between verse 1 and verse 2, right? So anyway, that's the gap theory. And some good men. Chuck Smith holds to this particular view. And he was one of the influential teachers in my life as a young Christian. So that's the gap theory. Then the fourth one is the ideal time theory, or some have called it mature creationism. This means that when God created the world, He created the world to look like it was millions or billions of years old. Do you see what I mean by that? Like He created man fully adult. Adam and Eve weren't created as babies. They were created mature. Probably in their 20s or 30s, or however they would appear to us as being in their 20s and 30s today, right? So did Adam have a belly button? I mean, I really don't want to be silly, but if God created Adam with a belly button, we don't have any way of knowing this, maybe He created the earth and the people in it to look as though it were very old. And so that's, they say, why when man was created, he could look up into the sky and he could see stars. But wait a minute. It takes millions of light years for that light to get from that star to be able to be seen. So how could he see if it was the first day that God created the stars and he could look up and see it? Well, God could have engineered everything so that that light was present on the very first day. God can do anything He wants to. And so that's what the theory says. The difficulty I have with this view is that it says that God created the earth with fossils and relics already implanted in the earth. But if He did that, it would seem like God is actually throwing us off or deceiving us, trying to make it appear that the earth is much older than it actually is. Okay? So that's the difficulty I have with that particular view. But it is a view that many hold to. And then the fifth view, this is the one that seems to me, as I just read the Bible, seems to be plain and natural. This is what's called the 24-hour literal day view, which means that God created everything that He did in 6 24-hour periods of time, and then He rested on the seventh day. Now, why would I hold to that view? Well, at the end of each day, it says there was morning and there was evening one day, or 2 days, or the third day. Morning and evening. You can't fit a morning and an evening into a geological age. Morning and evening speak of a regular 24-hour period of time, at least what we observe today. The word here is yom in Hebrew for day. And whenever you find this particular word yom with a numeral before it, like the first day or the second day or the third day, it always refers to a regular 24-hour period of time. Now the word yom can refer to an age or a longer period of time than just 24 hours, but when it's accompanied by that numeral, it doesn't. In the rest of the Bible, it just means a regular period of time, a regular 24-hour period of time. If that is true, then, and if we take the genealogies in the Bible and try to add up the number of years every person lived and try to go back to the beginning, as Bishop Ussher did in the 1500s, he came up with a figure of 4004 BC when man was created. Well, that's probably not accurate because others have shown that there are gaps in the genealogies. The genealogies are not all complete. And so if there are gaps, 1, 2, 3, some generations are just missing from the records. The biblical authors did not believe that it was necessary to include every genealogy in them. If that's true, we might have 10,000 or perhaps 15,000 at the most years since God created man. So I would be what you would call a young earth theory guy. There's old earth theory guys and there's young earth theory guys. I may not be able to harmonize what I believe the Bible teaches with science, but I'll just leave that for future days. I'll probably never be able to do that. When I see the Lord, I'll find out exactly how all this fits together. But it seems to me that's the natural, plain meaning of the text. And so I'm bound as a teacher, as a Bible teacher, to try to teach what appears to be God's natural, plain intention from the text. Okay, let's move on. Let's look at the days of creation. Ola, can you cast up that slide? There you go. Here are the days of creation. On day 1, God created light. He says in verse 3, then God said, let there be light. Literally, he said, light be, and light was. So all God did was speak, and things started to happen. God didn't use any pre-existing materials to do what he was about to do. All he did was speak it, and it appeared. It happened. God saw that the light was good. God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, one day. Notice, just out of the chute, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, that God makes no attempt to prove his existence. A lot of people say, well, why doesn't God prove he exists? Come on now. I can't see this God. He's got to prove to me that he's actually there. Well, the Bible is something like an autobiography. God's writing his own autobiography. And if you were going to write your own autobiography, how much space in your book would you take to prove that you actually exist? I don't think anyone... The autobiography proves that you exist. It can't come into being unless someone's writing it, right? Well, this book, in a sense, is proof that God exists. This is a divinely inspired book. So there's day 1. God simply speaks into existence light. Day 2. God separates the waters from the waters. Look at verse 6. Then God said, let there be an expanse. Some of your Bibles say a firmament. That means this distance. Let there be an expanse in the midst of the waters. And let it separate the waters from the waters. So evidently the earth originally was just this huge swirling mass of water. You know, there was a core underneath the waters, but the waters covered the globe and they just swirled around to the best of our ability to understand what's taking place here in Genesis 1. And God said, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to take some of that water and we're going to lift it up, and it's going to hover above the atmosphere. And then there's going to be waters that are on the earth. In fact, it goes on to say in verse 7, God made the expanse and separated the waters which were below the expanse from the waters which were above the expanse. And it was so. God called the expanse heaven, the atmosphere around the earth. This isn't talking about the heaven where God dwells immediately, but earth's atmosphere. And there was evening and there was morning, a second day. Now, people have tried to understand what in the world is really going on. There's a swirling ball of water, and then God takes some of the water and he puts it around the atmosphere. So here you've got the atmosphere, then you've got this blanket of water, then the earth's atmosphere, and then you've got the earth. And so we speculate that perhaps what's happening is there's sort of a water canopy or a water blanket surrounding the entire earth. Now, what kind of climate would you expect there to be on the earth if you had this water blanket to protect it from the UV rays of the sun? Humid. You'd expect it to be tropical over the entire planet. Sort of like Hawaii, wherever you go. North Pole, South Pole, everywhere is this tropical. There's bananas and mangoes and pineapples and lush vegetation everywhere you go. Well, interestingly, scientists have found at the South Pole, if they dig down deep enough, they find fossils of tropical plants. Now, how did a tropical plant get at the South Pole? They've also found woolly mammoths, which are extinct now, but woolly mammoths in Siberia, which is an ice land, covered with ice and snow. And a woolly mammoth was a vegetarian, like an elephant. Huge beast that ate lots and lots of vegetables and green stuff every day. So, Siberia, where is this mammoth going to find all of that vegetation to eat so it could survive? There's none up there anymore. It's all ice and snow. Well, evidently, at one time, it wasn't always that way. There was lush vegetation at the South Pole and in Siberia. And that